All right. All right. And welcome again to Cloud Security Office Hours. And I can't wait to hear this presentation from Alhaji Ba, who is a longtime Cloud Security Office Hours attendee, telling us about his story. So take it away, Alhaji.
Absolutely. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Alhaji Ba. I am an associate technical account manager here at Wiz. So I get used to saying that. So that's just like how I start off my sales pitch or my introduction. But I've been joining cloud security office hours for almost 2.5 years. And before we get started, this is not going to be one of those presentations where I'm going to use a lot of technical jargon. This is more so going to be just a storytelling of who I am and how we got to this moment right now. When I was on cost security office hours, the first thing I wanted to do when I got the offer from Wiz is tell Sean, hey, I'm here at Wiz, and Sean immediately stated that this is an American dream, and it's still kind of hard to process as far as how we got to this point. But I want to kind of share how we got here, and I'm going to share my screen and. This is going to be interactive as possible. So if you guys have any questions, please, don't be afraid to, you know, put it in the message board. But as you guys see, the title here is How the fuck did I get into Wiz? And obviously the title is HR to Cloud Security. Again, my name is Alhaji Ba. And I just wanted to just start off by just giving this introduction of like who I am. If you wanted to get like my statistics and stuff like that, that's my collegiate photo when I was a track and field runner at Radford University. This is almost 10 years ago now. So just kind of giving a little bit of my age and a little bit of statistics, like what I did, the university, my size and speed and stuff like that. And that's a little bit of who I am, right? I have a sports background, ran track and field. When I was an undergrad, I had no idea what I was gonna do. I kind of was like, you know what? I was just happy to be at undergraduate school. A lot of people that I went to school with, I hang around with, they don't generally think of, their career opportunities. They're kind of just in the moment right now. And I didn't want to fall in that, right? I always wanted to do something, but I just didn't know what to do after undergrad. I kind of was like, all right, like how am I going to figure this out? What am I going to do? And I spent my entire collegiate years, being a student athlete. And when the sport got cut in 2014, so that's men's track and field, obviously other collegiate sports, varsity sports were cut, like swim and dive and field hockey. I was in that. Well, let me just get my undergraduate, and then once I graduate, what am I going to do next? So I didn't have those traditional. I went to computer science, undergraduate degree. I didn't know any tech stacks. I grew up. My dad came to the country. My family's from Sierra Leone, West Africa. My dad did what he could to, provide for me, my brother, and for him, he wanted to see the best out of me and my brother, but he didn't know exactly what that is, right? He didn't, success to him looks a little bit different than what success looks to me, my brother, and my sister. And one side job that he would used to do is he would buy computers and just go open up the computer and fix it. And that was really the first time of me actually seeing what a motherboard looked like, what a power supply looked like, what RAM looked like, seeing a hard drive and just asking these questions and not really knowing like what the inside of a computer looks like, but just kind of sharing that my background comes completely different from generally could be everybody here, but necessarily school wasn't what I thought I can, come up with this career with. And afterwards, after undergrad, I was like, you know what? I need to make money. I moved back home. I'm going to be a bank teller. And one thing I started noticing with, just being how I am is that customer service skills, just being able to have a conversation with somebody and talk about their day and having a transaction and knowing that there's a business that's going to be conducted, but there's also the customer service aspect that comes with that as well. And I started my career after undergrad as a bank teller. And after, several months, I dived into HR. And from from 2017 to 2022. I worked for various organizations, nonprofits, as you see, and I worked for George Washington University as an HR manager. I had a wide range of opportunities, and it got to a point where I didn't enjoy HR as much. I thought, at the time, I thought, I was making a difference. I love to onboard, people that are coming from different avenues and joining an organization. And for me, I got to a point where I honestly was just tired of firing an employee in case they, a manager didn't like an employee for whatever the case may be. I just got tired of it. I wanted to do better. And a buddy of mine, which I'm not sure if he's on this call or if he's here today, um, came up to me and said, "Hey, you know what? You have the soft skills, you have the gravitas, you have what it takes to be in technology, but I think you should think about making a career change." And it's 2022, right? So let's think about where we were in 2022. So this is 2 years after COVID, right? A lot of us saw the transition of organizations literally going from bare metal and straight into the cloud, not really knowing what to do when they have their infrastructure in the cloud, what the services and how powerful these services can be for businesses. And I look at that when I was an HR professional as simply transitioning from one HRIS system to another, not realizing that implementation, but more so understanding how it benefits our HR professionals using that HRIS system and explaining that to my colleagues. That's what my friend noticed. Hey, you have the technical acumen. You just have to dive a little bit more into what these services can do for the business. And that's where it started in 2022. But obviously, I didn't make the decision for myself to start into my cloud journey. I was fired. In October in 2022, my last HR role, which was fully remote, I was fired. And it changed everything for me. I mean, I've been laid off as an HR professional. I've had contractors ended, but I've never had a tenure not be in my control until that moment. And from that moment on, I told my buddy, hey, like, I'm going to write this down. Like, I'm going to transition into cloud. I know it's so cliche. I know that's so trendy to say that, especially in 2022, because we're seeing a lot of people develop skills, come from all different types of backgrounds, transition into the cloud, or some that, hey, they get the internship after undergrad, they do the right things, they network the right way, and then they pivot themselves into a big enterprise, right? Whereas with myself in undergrad, I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a middle school teacher. And then because of NCAA rules, I transitioned into a communications major and business administration minor. And then I went from that to banking to HR to thinking, man, like I did all these transitions. Can I actually pivot into technology? Is this something that I can do? Um, where the fuck do I start? I have my $80,000 paycheck from HR. Can I make more money? Is this legitimate? I don't really know anyone in my circle, at least at the time. I thought I didn't know anybody that makes more money than me. Money is not really a comfortable conversation to talk about, right? We don't talk about how much do you make? Okay, what do you bring back to the table after taxes? What is a 401k? What is Roth? What is financial literacy? We don't really have those conversations, at least at the time, the people that I would, you know, have these conversations with, to me, they're just, thinking about the present. They're not thinking about what the next 5 years or 10 years could be for them. Um, and then one thing to keep in mind also is, I have a learning disability. Um, and I this learning disability was something when I was in, grade school all the way till 12th grade. I kind of didn't want to tell anybody. I was ridiculed by it. How people look at kids that have, learning disabilities or special disabilities, they're looked at as, you know, there's like normal students, I guess you can consider normal, and then you have your below average students, and then you have 50 piles of shit, and then it looks like it's special education kids that have learning disabilities. And I felt like I was in that pool and I was curious, how can I learn? How can I adapt if I have this learning disability that there's no cure for? Will this hamper my ability to be able to make it in this industry? And then once I started, gaining the confidence and started doing the research, do I need a cert or do I need a tech degree or do I need both or do I need any of it? How fast can I learn these technologies? What is the fastest way to do this? Because I don't want to spend 3 months. I don't want to spend 6 months. I want to get the cert and then I want to get the job right now. Like these are things that I had to come to think about, come to terms, and ultimately have multiple resources, multiple people come to me and say, hey, you need to treat this as a marathon. This is not a sprint. Being a track and field runner, being a sprinter, especially a hurdler, we're trained to be in the blocks. We're trained to really focus on when the gun is shot. We're really trained on attacking that first hurdle and really staying clean over the hurdle. I also played other sports like in basketball, you can't just move to the basket without dribbling the ball, continuing the hoop. In football, you can't start the play until the ball is snapped, right? If you move immediately before the ball is moved, it's a false start, right? So, like, I didn't realize at that time, hey, like, I'm going to need to transition my thought process here. And, these are just other things that were happening in life, because again, this is how, when you're in this journey, when you really want something, when you really want to go for it, things are ultimately going to happen in your life. Shit's going to happen. There was a moment where I couldn't even receive unemployment benefits when I was laid off, just because the state I live in, Virginia, they needed multiple verifications that I was laid off. And then when I was fired, it was difficult to try to receive those benefits. And I had to move back home. I couldn't afford rent. And my family had to take that chance and say, you know what, you want to transit into technology? Okay, go for it. But this is what you have to do if you're living in these terms. Um, and then I didn't really have a clear direction once I started learning about the cloud. I was like, all right, like, what do where do I go? What makes sense to me? And it's just more doubt, more doubt, more doubt. I got dumped and it hit me emotionally. Like all these things were happening, and this is right towards 2022 going to 2023. But one thing I'll say before I move on to the next slide is for anyone that's an early career developer, anyone that's in undergrad, anyone that's transitioning from a different career into technology, it can be cybersecurity, it can be cloud, it can be information technology. One thing that I will say is you have to stay patient because in this industry, in this field, you're going to be thrown at, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to hit your way. There's going to be a lot of things that's going to overwhelm you. But the important thing to keep in mind is the fact that you can still keep going. You're gonna feel like you're gonna want to learn everything all at once, and that's not realistically how it works. Because let's be honest, not all of us are gonna learn networking in a lifetime. It's impossible, and it's okay. You don't need to necessarily know everything about BGP, right? Like I don't know everything within that routing protocol, but I can learn the certain components that make sense enough for me to be able to do my job effectively. So just keep in mind anyone that's in that early stage, like, I don't know this, and this is a lot of information, just relax, take it one day at a time, spend 30 minutes on a content and just keep going because you're not going to learn everything in a lifetime. But if you take the time to strategize how you want to learn it, you'll come out with better solutions. Um, and then from there, 2023, I was like, you know what? This is where things are going to start changing a little bit. I was able to get my first tech job at AWS as a data center technician. Um, for those that understand certain slangs, being a data center technician, you were in the slums, essentially. You were in the trenches. And what that essentially means is you're working for a big enterprise and you're going in and AWS's ideas about security. the moment you walk in, you have to make sure that you don't hit any alarms, the setup alarms in the data center, right? You have to make sure that you are verifying who you are. And then when you're actually inside of the pods, aka you're inside walking through the data centers, the racks and rows of multiple servers and racks and cooling stations to cool the actual like pods, so they don't overheat. It was a lot of work. But I started understanding, the main services that EC2 utilizes, which was EC2, virtual machines. Started understanding S3, storages, right? And how if something was to happen, right? Let's say there was a Prime Day event that happens at the data center, understanding their urgency of, okay, getting these hard drives out, getting these SSDs transitioned into, and then just understanding other components within security, within networking. Um, like it gave me a really good sense of what it's like to understand the ticketing system and then triaging a ticket. If it's not something that I can handle, I can triage it to a colleague or to a manager for approval. Like these certain skills, again, these are things that I didn't realize I was learning, but I really appreciated AWS for giving me that hands-on experience and what that was like. And then in 2024, which was a year ago, I was like, you know what? I want to kind of take, a little bit of more of what I'm learning into actual practical knowledge. And I want to say I had a little bit of AWS experience. I mean, again, at that time, I did get a certification. It was a foundational AWS cloud practitioner certification, which I do think that if you are also in that early stages of going through, you know, any CSP, it's AWS, Azure, Google, I really do think it's important to learn the foundation. If you want to go ahead and get a certification, by any means, go do that because again, it does look good for profile, it does look good for engagement. Again, if you go to an AWS certification, or if you get an AWS certification, if you go to an AWS Summit, it looks good to show that you understand the fundamental services and you're able to showcase exactly what certification you got. It's just a great conversation piece starter to have. Um, but I would definitely say that this 2024 was, I think, a game changer for me. That's when I started attending cloud security office hours. Um, that's when I started really going to networking events in Northern Virginia, right? Just being able to attend these local events that were in Arlington, Virginia, and just being able to say, "Hey, my name is Alhaji, and I understand a little bit about RDS, but can you give me an example of something or a project that you're working on?" Right? Just creating these conversations because one thing that you have to do, you have to stand out, is you have to be able to be uncomfortable. Like you have to go up to somebody and just have a natural conversation about what they're working on or how they got through where they got to. And generally, what I think I've learned is people generally love to talk about themselves, right? And it's a great opportunity for you to get to know someone by just letting them just sit back and letting them talk about whatever projects that they're working on, whatever that they have in mind, whatever developer piece, whatever code, whatever technologies that you may find interest, right? I think that's a great opportunity to talk about networking. But as I keep going through, as I keep parsing through, there will be a networking component piece. And I think the person that I'll be mentioning is on this call knows a little bit more about networking. But as I mentioned, April in 2024, I rolled into the boot camp called Level Up in Tech. And Level Up in Tech is a cloud DevOps boot camp that it was almost the most interesting 8 to 9 months that I have ever endured. I mean, this is where I enhanced and, I made AWS just a bread and butter piece, but I was also comfortable enough to go into the Azure console and understand the services and being able to configure my own VNet, just like creating a custom VPC in AWS. I was able to get comfortable with Python. I thought from there, I've always wanted to learn Python. After finishing up Level Up in Tech, it's like I understand scripting to a point where I'm actually pulling out data from my EC2 instance, just giving an example, or there's times where in Linux, I'm actually creating my own file system And I'm like, man, I'm the guy that's creating my own user. I'm the super user. I give this particular permissions for this particular group. Like I have that power to do that. Like that made me realize how powerful Linux is, right? I made that investment in April in 2024 because I knew at that moment, like I wanted to jump into the cloud. I wasn't really sure what that would look like. I wasn't really sure how I would even get there, but I knew making this investment was going to change my life. Um, and it gave me other things. Like it showed me what Terraform could look like. It showed me the potentials of Ansible. It made me more comfortable to really go in and create technical documentation. I was able to create a Medium account and post my projects there. And then I used LinkedIn. I took advantage of LinkedIn. I post my projects on LinkedIn and tell my entire community, hey guys, I got a project I just created. You guys want to see it? Let's talk about it. Let's, give me your ideas. Like I got to a point in 2024 where I just did not give no fucks. I knew I wanted to jump into this industry, but I was like, you know what? The time is now. Just go out there and network. If someone calls you out, if someone says, hey, where did you come up with this script or where did you come up with this idea? Like, if someone calls me out, I would have loved to jump and comment back and then create a conversation offline so then I can network with them and get their expertise, right? The whole point of creating these projects and this documentation is to create as much visibility as possible because anybody can look into my projects and then anybody can create a relationship with me, right? You have to network. You have to put yourself out there. You have to be ready for someone to say, hey, man, like this doesn't make sense. Can we talk offline? Or, man, this is a great project. I want to share this with my hiring manager or people in my network to see what the type of work that you did. Like sometimes when you put your projects out there, early risers, transitioners, right? Those that are looking to transition into this industry, you have to put yourself out there and you can't be afraid to fail because I mean, ultimately in life, things are going to happen. Like shit's going to happen. You're going to fail anyways, but at least fail forward. And then you'll learn from when you failed and look back and say, you know what? I didn't do as good of a job as I did, but now I can critique it because I learned from that lesson. So just some things to keep in mind that this boot camp just ultimately gave me the confidence. It was a lot of money and it is an investment, but it gave me that digital presence that I needed, the confidence, obviously displaying the gravitas that I already brought to the table. So, um,
Um, Alhaji,
Fearless.
I want to just add a comment in there on boot camp. So, um, over the years, I've heard so much negative feedback from people the way they talk about boot camps, and I think it's unfair because boot camps are actually a great way to level up when in a position like you were at, and don't let people talk you out of it. If it's something that you want to do for yourself and invest in yourself, don't let people go, oh, that. Don't let them do that to you. Like take advantage, invest in yourself. Anyway, that was my only comment.
Absolutely, Sean. And again, everybody, this is interactive. I know I've been talking off a ledge, and I know this is necessarily my story, but this is for everybody to get insight I mean, I literally was a guy that at one point in life was making relatively $16 per hour, just trying to make ends meet in early of March 2023. And I would jump in cloud security office hours asking Sean, hey, how long was this process? Or asking Neil, hey, where do I have to go for these resources? Or Jay, or there was just so many people that I reached out to that that they had the same level of respect for me because I had the courage to just ask them a question offline, right? Yeah, Kyle, what's going on, brother?
So this isn't this isn't really a question for the whole community, but lately I've discovered that I really like coding and open source software, but I realized that the 4-year degree that I was pursuing what wasn't necessary to like make a presence in open source. I realized that so, but part of me thinks that not pursuing a 4-year degree would be a bad idea for getting jobs. But if I got good enough at open source, companies would hire me anyway just to like maintain the open source thing. So I'm not in a situation where I have to go make money right now. It's more of an eventually for my retirement thing. So what I was thinking was, is is taking a break from pursuing my 4-year degree to get better at open source coding, is that like a viable option?
Man, Kyle, man, I love your question, and I love that you are always engaging in this cloud security office hours, man. And it's good to see you, man. It's been a minute since I've seen you, brother. I will
Yeah.
say, because I know there's about to be just a whole bunch of hands coming up after this. So I would say that undergrad, at least from what I'm hearing, because again, I have a communications degree. I can only tell you a little bit about what I think computer science professors and that level teaches. I don't know if they do enough practical learning, meaning actual real live world scenarios where you're actually using hands-on configurations or using real live problem solving skills. I don't know if they're doing enough of that. So I love that for you. I ultimately say it's ultimately what if that's what you want to do, Kyle. We in this community, we're going to support essentially whatever you want to do. Ultimately, you want to be as more hands-on and find things that you can solve problems to and you can present that, right? Because any project that you create essentially is your bid to showing that hiring manager that you can ultimately solve the problems that they're dealing with in their environments and atmosphere. But I know we have a bunch of hands, but please, this is exactly what I've been looking for. So I guess Brian, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, I just thought I'd raise my hand because I run a software development team. Um, so from my perspective, I want to know that you can code. And now the people on my team, it's like I have a small team, but it's sort of a mixed bag. I've got one gal who she went the boot camp route. She's got a master's in chemistry. She worked in a lab. She hated the ethics of what said lab wanted her to do, and she decided she needed a new career. So she took a boot camp, and she was hired straight out of that. Her skills were they were not great coming into it, but man, could she learn. And she is one of the best people on my team. So I'm not sure that, I mean, she didn't have a CS degree, but her ability to show she could learn that mattered in some way, right? One of my other best developers, I hired him right out of college. Now he went to Bloomsburg University, local to me. Not a well-renowned university, not a well-respected university, but what they do is exactly what you mentioned, which is practical skills. I talked to the head of the CS department when I was making a decision about hiring him, and we had a long conversation. He said, everybody, in our area, Bucknell University is the most respected university. I've had developers come in from their CS department. They suck. I hate to say it, they really do suck. It's a prestigious university, and maybe having a degree from that name is relevant to some people. It's not to me. They couldn't code their way out of anything I gave them. But in a university where they focus on practical skills, that was incredibly good. And the fact that he came with me to such great fundamentals, that was valuable. But that's not the only thing I would ever make a hiring decision on. If people have, I do go to a GitHub account if they have one. I look at that history. If their history is all the same bullshit to do apps that every React training is gonna walk you through, that doesn't show me that they know anything. It shows me they can take the sample code and they can fill in the blanks, but they haven't thought. So I don't know if that helps you at all, but from the perspective of like a development hiring manager, yeah, open source, that's good. That's good experience to show. Like if you're thinking about it from the perspective of your GitHub profile, make sure what you have out there in the public actually shows you've thought through problem solving projects, right? You've done hard things. You haven't just filled in the blanks on somebody else's template.
Okay. Okay. That's great advice. Thanks for thanks. I
Neil.
would also
Oh,
Yeah.
mention that I got the my associate's degree in computer science. So it's not that I don't have a degree, it's just that I don't have the 4-year degree a lot of places are expecting.
yeah.
And
Neil.
I'm a college dropout. In fact, I'm a TV production major college dropout. Um, I think if you were 10 years into your career, having a degree or not having a degree matters not at all. Um, because at that point, you've got a body of work that really establishes you. You've got connections, you've got that network. You're going to grow and thrive from there. But especially today, the first 10 years seem brutal. Like when I started, I mean, when I started in 95, which is 30 years ago now, um, we were hiring. When I started at Microsoft in 97, I came out of TV. There was a guy who'd been a radio DJ. There were Nobody really had any experience. And what happened is Microsoft and the industry outsourced and then offshored all of those introductory jobs that were available at the time. And that trend has continued. We're seeing AI now sort of push the same thing, right? That we're gonna get rid of entry level positions that we can automate. And what happened in my experience hiring support engineers, hiring incident responders, was it became incredibly difficult to find anybody for my introductory role or for my sort of mid-tier roles, the lowest level we were hiring for in the US, because there was a gulf between available jobs to build up to it and people and what we expected. So all of that to say, if you were in a position where you can get the degree, it's 2 years. It's gonna help you break that barrier for your first job in that first 10 years. In 2037, it probably won't make the slightest bit of difference to you. But in 2027, I think it'll make a tremendous amount of difference. It evens the odds or it increases the odds or whatever you want to say. But everything you have walking into your first few jobs in this industry that puts you above, that puts you at somewhere higher is going to be incredibly important. And then the other thing I'll say, if open source is a particular passion for you, broadly speaking, I think there's two paths there. A lot of the people I know who do open source work have a day job that has nothing to do with it. Here at Minimus, our developer relations, whatever her title is, I forget. She's amazing. She owns the Kubernetes release process. So Kubernetes 1.34 just came out this week. That's her work. That's not what she gets paid to do. She gets paid to do something different. She does that because she's passionate about it. That's a valid path. The other path is much smaller. It's really go get to know people at Red Hat. There may be other companies where people are getting paid to do a lot of open source work, but I can't think of one. Like if that's really what you're passionate about and what you want to get paid for, get to know some people at Red Hat because that's the only place I know of that it's a viable career path in a broad way.
Misha.
Misha?
Yeah, I love this question. This is one of those things. I wish someone had sat me down when I was like 18, 19 and had this conversation. I might have not have been a college dropout. I think it's a theme here, I guess. But for me, like one of the things I didn't really understand at that age about the purpose of college, like yes, you're there to get a degree, and that degree helps you get your foot in the door for jobs and all the stuff that's really obvious. But the other thing that you can get out of college that I think is the real value is it's like your first when we talk about cloud security office hours as a networking opportunity. College is your first like place where you're building a community of people who are interested in what you're doing, who are going to be at the same stage of their careers as you are, and who are going to be people that you can build your career around. And that's the value, like the existential value of college is finding a group of people that you can network with and build a career adjacent to. If you can find that in another way, like
you've knocked off like a huge part of that value. Like maybe cloud security office hours almost replaces that for you. I don't know, but like that's the other value of college that you have to think about, and I think it's a really important one. If you do something else, make sure that you don't lose the ability to build a community, to build a career, to build a network of people that you're going to grow around, because that's a really, really important thing to have. And for me, like it was something I didn't focus on in college. I had a lot of fun. I did a lot of other things. I eventually dropped out and went worked in technology. But if I had thought more intentionally about that, there's people I would have stayed in touch with. There's people I would have leaned on as I grew my career that I didn't take full advantage of. And I think that it's an important thing for you know you to think about at this stage.
Mm. Thank you for your advice, Misha. I would mention that like the college student community, unlike this one, is really just the blind leading the blind because it's like a lot of students who haven't got their first jobs yet. So
Mhm.
initially it's like that, but then as time goes on, they start like getting jobs and getting experience. So it's a network that grows in value over time.
But it's also you're all encountering the same things at the same time. Like you're all struggling to get jobs. So as one of you figures something out, you have like this peer group. It's like, oh, I figured this out. Like I did this and it got me here. And like it's just people who are exactly where you are in your career. So the being blind, like they're learning to see the things that you need to see most right now. And that's really valuable. Like having that community that's so focused on exactly where you are in your career, not a bad thing to be around. Even if they don't necessarily have it figured out yet, they're going to figure it out and they're going to figure it out at the pace you need to figure it out at.
There's a lot of
Okay.
power in learning together.
A
Um,
lot.
Yeah. Haji, we got one more hand and then we'll let you get back to it, my friend. Joseph?
Yeah, I'll be very quick. So, as one of the people who actually did finish both masters and bachelors in engineering and computer science, I don't have any regrets. I would do it again. I think the engineering discipline of real focus, as someone mentioned, the 600-page algorithm book, it's not a bad thing, especially as most of the peers that you're competing with are skimming at best or just AIing at worst. And it is a lot of work and it's expensive. I had some benefits in terms of a company paying for it, but it's not a regret. And I think Dane mentioned that it may be the kind of thing that people look to in the future as a differentiator if everyone else sort of appears the same. So just my 2 cents on that.
all right, Alhaji, back to you.
Yeah, I love all
And
this.
Alhaji, it's great to see you here.
Yeah, it's great. Good to see you too, Joseph. Joseph spoke at our ATAMP boot camp last week, so I was telling him it would be nice to see him again for this particular call and this presentation. But I wanted to showcase this individual on the screen. Um, it's you have a handsome individual such as myself, and then you have the other guy, which is Don McQueen. Um, Don, there's just not a lot of people in this world, I think there's not a lot of people like Don. I mean, it's to a point where my mother, every time he comes to Northern Virginia, my mom wants to make him like all the plasas, which is just an African soup for Don, so he can come back and eat it. Like this guy has been just a brother in this entire journey. Basically, he was the guy that said, "Hey, you know what? Like you could be doing so much more in HR. If they don't see it, you should transition into cloud security, but you're going to have to work and you have to do the due diligence. I'm not just going to give you the answers. I'm not just going to hold your hand. Like nobody cares about your sad story. Everybody's broke. Everybody moves back home to in their parents' house in their 30s. Everybody gets dumped, right? Everybody gets fired, but nobody cares. You have to go out and put in the work because people are going to celebrate the work you put in. Nobody cares about your sad stories. And having someone that's going to hold you accountable like this, is like, it's very encouraging through all the rejections you go through, the technical interviews, the people that don't reach out back to you when you reach out to them. Having someone that's going to be a guide And also, it helps the fact that he's also going through a journey as well. And you're seeing how he maneuvers himself from, again, putting himself at one of the top cloud security or one of the top cloud enterprises in the world and having things not turn out as well as it did to ultimately transitioning that to becoming a senior TAM at the fastest growing cloud security startup in the world. So, and to see that transition in his eyes, through my eyes and through him, it was amazing. And for him to encourage me to get here is outstanding. I can talk about this for hours and hours, but we really don't have that much time to really talk about his influence. But ultimately, we're going to talk about like what we're all really here for, right? How this is all a cool story and all this, but how did we actually get to this point? Well, there was a lot of rejections. I applied. I looked at my LinkedIn, I looked at my Glassdoor, and I looked at my Indeed. I think it was in a total from 2022 October to about June of 2000 and yeah, June of this past year. It was maybe 850 applications in total that were out there, and um, I want to say out of the 850. Maybe 50 maybe came back as maybe, hey, let's turn this to an interview. I would say about five made it to about a final interview. And Wiz was the only organization that said, you know what, we understand your background. You don't come from a traditional, you don't come from a FANG, you don't come from any CNAPs, you don't have this particular experience, but you have something that we like that we ultimately want to bring to this organization. And even in that in itself, uh, you know, Donnie being the guy that he is, always trying to help me out, always trying to, send me job applications, said, hey, Wiz is going to open up these particular roles. Be ready if the time comes. And at the time, I'm telling Don, I'm going to work here, man. Don't worry about it. I'm going to do my part. You just make sure that you send the referral. And when that time comes, they're going to know how to pronounce my name. And I made that joke, made that joke to him, not realizing that I put it into fruition. And even the process to getting into Wiz was, um, it wasn't easy, and there was a lot of troubleshooting to get to that point. Um, but ultimately, when I received that offer, uh, I was in the office of the organization that I was working with prior, and my recruiter, sent me an email basically saying, "Hey, do you have time to talk?" And immediately I sent a text message to Don on June 17th. On that day, I was like, "Man, Don, I'm gonna get another rejection, man. Here we go." Like all this work just seems like it's uncertain. And then the recruiter sent me another email basically saying, Alhaji, we're just getting ready for the offer. So please go ahead and schedule a time where we can talk about next steps. And I literally ran out of the office and I cried in my car as a grown man at 32 years old, just, really coming to the realization that like I did it. You know, a guy like me, that can talk about this experience, it's incredible because, people say it's the American dream, and I just really worked to get to where I want to get to. And I had people that behind me that didn't give up on me. And um, I think the biggest takeaway that I have is document your journey, man. Document, doesn't matter, blog anything that you want to fix. Show your thinking, show like how you did it. um, if you can, try to monitor everything. So get that experience in Prometheus, get that experience in Grafana, find a cloud native monitoring tool, just get the comfortability of seeing metrics. Um, like automate the boring shit. I get it. Like people are like, oh, I want to sophisticate my code. Like you understand the code, understand how to automate. I mean, you're gonna write scripts and then you'll save so much time doing that. You'll reduce so much you'll save so much like in your overhead. And I think the biggest takeaway that I have is be resilient, people, and never give up because there was a lot of rejections, there was a lot of doubt, there was a lot of people in my inner circles that questioned, hey, like, why do you want to transition careers? You have this comfortable paycheck that you're bringing in. Why would you want to take this chance? You don't have no reason to do that. Why be uncomfortable? And it's funny to see it now how many people are reaching out asking me, how'd you get to Wiz? What's your, what advice would you give? Like people see me as an influencer or, someone that can inspire them to get to where they get to. And ultimately, I'm just a motherfucker who believes just like you. I just wanted to continue to learn and I'm not comfortable where I'm at. Like it's great being at Wiz, but I want to continue to learn. Like it doesn't stop just because I made it here.
Oh,
And
it just
still
started, Alhaji.
it just started. Like, and we're not even at 10%. So, but yeah, that's my story. I just wanted this to reach to an audience that is still trying to figure out if they want to transition into this field. And here's someone that literally didn't have shit and would attend office hours, these cloud security office hours, and now we're here celebrating, and I'm still like wrapping around like, how did we get here?
So I have to say, like when I started this little experiment over 2.5 years ago now, well, 2.5 years, um, this was exactly what I was hoping for, which was to create a networking environment that that accomplished exactly this, like people working together, helping transition, people with skills, very useful skills into cloud security. And I can't tell you how happy I am for you, Alhaji, and I'm happy for Wiz that you're with Wiz. And I think what a great story. Thank you so much for coming on here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I see Kyle's hand up.
Hey, yeah, thanks. I really appreciate that presentation, Alhaji. I used to come here a lot for the cross security office hours, but in the last year and a half, I've kind of taken a step back from it. But I just knew I had to come here to listen to your story. So my question is, throughout your presentation, you kind of mentioned a lot about networking, and how you leverage kind of LinkedIn and stuff like that. So just from my perspective, right now, I'm trying to transition in my career as well. Right now, I'm currently working at CSOH doing like kind of MDR automation tasks. And I'm trying to leverage kind of LinkedIn and like trying to reach out to places and apply to all these things. And I'm like, I know all these different skills. And I have these on my resume, but like I'm not even getting these rejection letters. And it's like kind of tossing things into a black hole. So like I don't know, maybe things have changed in the last year since like 2024 when you were talking about this stuff. But like how do you kind of get that traction going when you're in my position?
That's a great question, Kyle. And one thing I didn't do enough of emphasizing is being almost a shark when you are a job seeker. So, and what that means is I always, and at least what I'm telling people now is if you see at least 3 to 5 roles that you feel absolutely confident in, that you meet at least 50% of the job requirements. I honestly say go ahead and network the shit out of those 3 to 5 contacts. And that means that's a hiring manager, that's a recruiter, that's a potential DevOps engineer, that's anybody in that particular role, and shoot as many messages as possible to create that type of visibility. Because what they will do is they'll do the work for you. They'll essentially say, man, this guy Kyle, he's motivated, he's hungry, he may not know everything about what we have to offer in our platform, but he's someone that we can teach these particular skills to, right? You have to let the people in the industry in those particular roles that you are in do the work for you. So then when you come in, you already have created what I could say like a champions of people in that particular job, which essentially I don't know if Don McQueen or I don't know if Donnie really knew what he was doing when he was bringing me to cloud security office hours because I was just showing up and just asking questions and not being afraid. I don't think any one of us, any people, anybody that's at Wiz now knew that's on this call knew I was going to be onboarded at Wiz until it actually happened. And then I realized I created all these people that knew me before I even got onboarded.
You
So
you mentioned a black hole, Kyle. It is a black hole. If you throw an application out there at a job and that's your total effort to getting into that company, that's a black hole. That'll never ever work anywhere. I guarantee you. You have to do more than just apply. You have to figure out who the hiring manager is, link to them on LinkedIn, find out who else works there that you might know, reach out to them on LinkedIn and ask them questions about the role. Hey, do you like it there? All of those things matter because the more your name is heard over there, the more it's going to matter if you get into the process, right? Chris.
Yeah. Sorry, just to say one more thing. I have actually been doing these things. Like I've purchased LinkedIn Premium. I'm reaching out to these hiring managers, to the HR people. I've even reached out to people that I've actually met through cloud security office hours that I have on my LinkedIn. And like I sending out these messages. I'm through all my in-mail messages right now, and it's just I get no responses back. So I don't know. I obviously maybe you guys don't have the answer, and it's kind of a difficult job market right now. But I think the
It
takeaway
is.
from this just to kind of just be continue being a shark and trying to do these things. So thanks for your answers, guys.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have a
Kyle,
opinion about
let's
that.
talk offline whenever you get a chance, Kyle. I'll definitely send you a message on LinkedIn. We could definitely talk more offline.
Yeah, appreciate
Yeah.
it.
At the risk of oversimplifying it, Kyle, and Alhaji, great presentation. Don't fall into the trap of being too transactional. Um, and what I mean by that is that the things that I remember, I've talked to Alhaji, Don, all these, everyone on this call, right? And I remember those calls, but the people I remember are the people that maybe you're on fire right now, and you reached out to me and you're on fire. You're like, okay, let's network, and then maybe it doesn't yield in a referral, or it doesn't yield in you getting a job, and then you just go the fuck away. And I think I see too much of that. What can you do for me right now? And if you can't do anything for me right now, then it's a wasted effort. And I think that being very intentional, this takes energy, and saying that, look, this conversation isn't just about a one-time thing. It's about building a relationship, and who knows what fruit that tree may bear, but staying the course. When you're networking, building your matrix and following up obsessively, right? And it may take a year, it may take 2 years, you just never know. I just see too many people get bogged down into like, it's really hard out there right now. There's a lot of people ghosting people. There's some people that are just hanging on to their jobs. They're like, I'm not referring anyone. I just need to make sure I'm good and I can keep. You never know what people are going through, right? So don't be in a rush to create the narrative. Well, they just ghosted me, or there's no fruit being yielded here. Go into it being altruistic. And I'm telling you right now, I think I see a lot of people that reach out to me and that have talked to me. And then a month will go by, out of sight, out of mind, right? So it's almost as if I'm not doing anything for you, it's not of use to you. And I think that never lose sight of the fact that this is a cyclical thing, and you have to stay the course, right? Had Alhaji said that, okay, after I talked to a couple folks on cloud security office hours, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go find something else, and I'm going to go invest in something else, right? But I think he stayed the course, right? And I think it's important to remember that, Kyle, there's a lot of people out there that are experiencing what you're experiencing that are badasses, right? And it just is what it is, right? And I think that human beings are inherently selfish, right? But what you can control is the narrative that you tell yourself and the energy you put out into the universe, right? And so even if it results in being ghosted and it's not happening right now, I'm just falling into a black hole, or like I've got the qualifications, I'm not even getting a screening. It's okay. Stay the course, right? And be intentional, and maybe be a little bit more focused about the energy, but you can get all that right. You can nail it, and it still may not happen. But what I like to do is I like to lean into, especially in these times, okay, well, am I being of service to someone? I'm going to stay the course. I'm going to follow up, and it doesn't have to yield in a successful transaction for me. Am I being of service to someone else? And I think someone will notice, but it's rough out there. It's rough out there all over the world, man. So just stay the course. If I can be of any encouragement, oh, Haji, so great to hear this news. I think this is a great presentation, even though I showed up late, but so happy to see you, man. Rooting for you.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap up the recording. Again, thank you, Alhaji, and thank you, everybody, for joining. I hope you spread the word about this and our successes and what we can do. And if you didn't say hello today and you were new, um, hopefully you'll be brave enough to say hello next week and build your network and all that good stuff. And I will see you all next week. Thank you very much.